Okay, we'll call the September 23rd council meeting to order. Mary Jo, will you call the roll, please?
Aaron Borowski.
Here.
Kevin Tansky. Sue Grodick.
Here.
Kathy Pucci.
Here.
Stephen Coyle.
Here.
Andy Selhertz.
Here.
Matt Mosley.
Here.
Will everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance. Okay, we have minutes from the September 9th, 2024 meeting to approve. Any comments, corrections, questions? Do we have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
To approve the minutes, Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to the mayor, who has a proclamation.
Thank you, Council President. If I could have the 14U boys baseball team, you guys can come on up with your coaches. 14U.
Where's 14? Where's 14?
All right, so Brooklyn had another great year at baseball, in our baseball team. This is our 14U boys baseball team, and we have a proclamation for them, so I'm going to read this, and then I present this to them. It says this: the Brooklyn Hurricanes 14U baseball team finished the season with a record of 6-1, an overall record of 9-3-1, including 3 tournament wins. The team defeated the Berea Lugnuts with a score of 12-4 in the July 18th championship game played at Berea Malone Field. Our city is proud of the fine representation of sportsmanship, character, and leadership these young men have displayed. The following team members and coaches made our community proud of an exciting season and displayed superior camaraderie, spirit, and hard work, and determination it takes to be a champion. We have Evan Barrow, Abraham Bishop, Luis Cruz, Marcelo Garcia, Michael Grumbach, Julian Hernandez, Matthew Canderas, Gavin McKinley, Giovanni Milan, Jaden Orengo, Mason Vega, EJ Velez, Carson Westerhold, Max Wilson, and their coaches Jose Vega, Jason Westerhold, and Freddie Carabello. Let's give these men a Right, so this is the 10U baseball team for the city of Brooklyn this year. We're missing a few players, but these guys and gal, well, obviously been coached this year. I had the privilege of coaching this team for the last 2 seasons, and they're a lot of fun. So the Brooklyn Hurricanes 10U baseball team finished the season with a record of 10-0, an overall record of 12-0, including 2 tournament wins. The team defeated Olmsted Falls Black Meadow with a score of 17-0 in the July 12th championship game played here at Brooklyn Memorial Field. Our city is proud of the fine representation of sportsmanship, character, and leadership these young men displayed. The following team members and coaches made our community proud of an exciting season and displayed superior camaraderie, spirit, hard work, and determination it takes to be a champion. Congratulations to Ben Bundy, Blake Cart, Evan Ritz, Parker Kerpix, Julian Norris, Jonathan Parrish, Mason Pointer, Ava Ravas, Radamis Rivera, Michael Santana, Samuel Santana, Mariel Torres, Tanner Van Kirk, Gabriel Velez, and a special thank you to my assistant coaches Matt Hart, Parents and families, you're welcome to stay if you want to, but if you want to leave this time, you're more than welcome to do that.
Okay, we'll move on with our meeting. At this time, we will have the public session. If anyone in the audience has anything to say pertaining to a legislative item on the agenda, please step forward, state your name and address, and you will be recognized. Please remember to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less.
My name is Bob Hennings. I live at 4643 Winter Lane, Brooklyn, Ohio. It's that time of the year again where I come to bother everybody for donations. Senior night is fastly coming up, and we are looking for donations to help pay for.
Excuse me, but it has to be pertaining to legislative items on the agenda.
Sorry.
That's okay. There's a second public session after the legislative items. It's okay. He's been coming for many years.
Cindy Whitey, 4164 Springcrest Drive. Good evening. I just had additional questions with regard to the presentation for the Rabbit Run Memphis project, which is part of legislation, correct? Yes. So, again, I missed the part on the Memphis Road. How many actual homes was there? I got, on the Amber side, there was going to be 24. Is that correct? And then for the Memphis, further down?
20.
20, okay. And then I know that Kathy Pucci had brought up about the rental issue. I really would like to know how we're going to guarantee that they won't become rentals. I know that there's deed restrictions that can be put into place, but will it stay from, if I buy the house, then you buy it, my deed restrictions when I go to sell it to you or whomever? How does that all
So I
work?
already checked with Mr. Butler, and during
Okay.
his report, he will explain that.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question I had, I did do a little bit of research on GD3 Ventures, George Davis, et cetera, and in his, on his website and in his presentation, he does state that he considers himself an environmentally conscious developer, whereby he does not have an impact on the environment and destroy the environment, and he is a good steward of the environment, as not to have an impact on the surrounding neighborhood. That being said, I would wondering if you have an idea on the Memphis, the larger developing, how much of the trees and all those trees and forestry is going to get wiped out in order to build these homes? It would seem like we're going to take out a lot of the environment to build this. And that's just a question I had. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to hold off, the developer and home builder are here, but because we have two different public sessions, we're going to hold off and have you answer all the questions at once in case we get additional questions. Okay, thank you. Anyone else have anything to say relating to legislative items on our agenda? Okay. We'll move on to reports of committees, commissions, and boards. And I'll start with the Finance Committee. Excuse me. The Finance Committee did meet earlier this evening and recommended adopting the following pieces of legislation. Or a Resolution 2024-14, which is on second reading. However, we recommended adopting under suspension of the rules because there is a timeline to get this back to the Budget Commission, accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county fiscal officer. And this means there will be no increase on the city's portion of property taxes for next year. Under new business, Resolution 2024-17, which is up for first reading with a request to suspend the rules because there's a September 30th deadline for this grant. Approving the application of the City of Brooklyn to apply for a community development block grant funds for the ADA upgrades to the James P. Brock Memorial Playground project. And this will be $150,000 that we're applying for. Resolution 2024-18, which is also up for first reading with a request to suspend the rules because of the same deadline of September 30th for the grant. Approving the application of the City of Brooklyn to the Cuyahoga County Supplemental Grant Program for the Exterior Home Repair Grant Program, and this we're requesting $50,000. I'll also move on to the Committee of the Whole report. The Committee of the Whole did meet at 6:15 earlier this evening and recommended the following agenda items. I'm not going to repeat the ones that I just mentioned from the Finance Committee because the Committee of the Whole also recommended adopting those. Ordinance 2024-16, which was on third reading for adoption, enacting Chapter 157, Inclusion and Belonging Commission of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Brooklyn. Councilman Borowski made a motion to amend the title to strike the word inclusion and insert connecting, and that amendment did pass. So because there was a change, that is now back on second reading. Ordinance 2024-17, which was up for third reading and adoption, amending the Planning and Zoning Code of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Brooklyn to regulate certain medical marijuana and adult-use cannabis facilities in the city. There was some discussion on this and some proposed revisions, so we voted to defer this to our next meeting. We're going to get the information to our law director, Mr. Butler, so that he can draw something up, and then at the next meeting, it'll be back on second reading. Ordinance 2024-13, up for second reading, requesting the county fiscal officer to advance taxes from the proceeds of the 2024 tax levies pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, Section 321.34. And those were the agenda items from the Committee of the Whole. We also had a presentation from the developer and the home builder relating to the potential sale of city property to build single-family townhomes, and they are going to stay until the end of the meeting in case there are additional questions. Now we'll move on to the Recreation Board, which is Councilman Tansky.
Thank you. Brooklyn Recreation Youth Basketball Grades 3 through 6. Fees, residents, St. Thomas More, and Heritage students, $60. Register is open through October 18th at www.brooklynrec.com. Volunteer coaches are needed. Let us know at registration if you are interested. Practices and home games to be held at Brooklyn Middle School Field House beginning the week of November 4th, and games in December. Away games to be held in Middleburg Heights, Brook Park, North Olmsted, North Bridgeville, Columbia Station, Fairview Park, Westlake, and Strongsville. Fall Learn to Skate ages 3 to 5 and 6 to 15. Friday sessions will be held on 10/18, 10/25, 11/1, 11/8, 11/15, 11/22. Saturday sessions will be on 10/19, 10/26, 11/2, 11-9, 11-23, 12-7. Aspire is a fun class with an individual approach for skaters who have passed Basic 6. Skaters will learn skills needed for local competitions, plus other fun group skills. Skaters will have the option to compete in area competitions. Learn to compete is open to all skaters from Snowplow 3 through Basic 6. Skaters will learn the skills needed for local competitions, plus other fun group skills. Skaters will have the option to compete in our competitions. For pricing and additional information, please contact the Rec Center. Brooklyn Senior Center for September and October include September 25th, bingo with Brooklyn Point at 1 p.m. September 27th, pancake breakfast at 10 a.m. Registration is open. October 2nd, pizza and movie, 1 p.m. free. October 9th, bingo, 1 p.m. with Avenue. October 11th, fall dance, 1 to 3 p.m., costs $5, registration is open. Senior Center will be closed October 14th for Columbus Day. October 15th, United Healthcare, Medicare speaker, 2 to 3 p.m. October 17th, chili cook-off at noon. This is a free event, but please call or register in person so we can have a head count. October 21st, Halloween Ghost Ceramic Craft, 9:30 a.m., costs $10. October 22nd, Mystery Lunch, meet at the Senior Center at 11:30 a.m. Registration begins October 1st, costs $3. October 23rd, bingo, 1 p.m. with Spry Senior. October 30th, bingo, 1 p.m. with Brooklyn Point. October 31st, stop in for a sweet treat starting at 9 a.m. Trick or Treat will be held on October 24th, 6:30 p.m., 7:30 p.m. at Safety Town, Veterans Memorial Park. Registration is required for kids at www.brooklynrec.com. The next Recreation Board will be held on October 21st in the Rec Center Meeting Room at 7 p.m. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Domestic Abuse Commission, Councilman Borowski.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, Brooklyn residents, Council, Mayor, Mary Jo. On August 7th, the Domestic Abuse Commission met. The topic of discussion of that meeting was the thoughts and ideas on how to update the ordinance that established the current commission. After a great conversation with the members, I'm currently working with our law director, Mr. Butler, on the key ideas discussed, and he started to work on a new ordinance. I'll be looking to discuss the new version with the Domestic Abuse Commission at the next meeting, which will be made public when appropriate, and then introducing it to council to hopefully be voted on and adopted before the end of this year. I'll work with the group on a location for the meeting, and the notice will be published online. Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. The Board of Zoning Appeals and Planning Commission, Councilman Coyle.
Good evening, everyone. The next Planning Commission meeting is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, October 2nd at 6 p.m. in council chambers. The agenda has not yet been announced and may be subject to cancellation due to a lack of applications. The Board of Zoning Appeals met on Thursday, August 15th to hear the following requests. A variance request from the resident at 4651 Winter Lane to install a pool closer than 10 feet from a structure per 110309 accessory use regulations of the Brooklyn Zoning Code. The applicant did not show and the request was subsequently denied. A variance request from ASI Signage doing installation at 7619 Memphis Avenue to allow a sign to be installed larger than permitted. And then they also had an additional one on that same location, a variance request from ASI Signage doing installation at 7619 Memphis Avenue to allow a second sign to be installed. The applicant did not show up for that meeting and the request was denied. And then a variance request from the resident at 7416 Traymore Lane to allow a decorative fence to be built in the front yard per 110504 residential fence requirements. Fences are not permitted to be installed in a front yard if not parallel with the building line and further than 8 feet from the front of the house. That application was denied. Additionally, the Board of Zoning Appeals met on Thursday, September 19th to hear the following requests. A variance request from the resident at 4618 Memphis at Villas to allow a pool to be installed closer than 10 feet from the structure. That was approved. A variance request from the resident at 4651 Winter Lane to allow a pool to be installed closer than 10 feet from the structure. That request was approved. And the variance request, two of them from ASI Signage This is for this sign to be installed larger than permitted at 7619 Memphis Avenue. In addition, a second sign to be installed at that location. Those both were approved. A variance request from the resident at 9645 Melody Lane to add an addition onto an existing garage. This request was tabled. And then lastly, a variance request from the resident at 4743 Springwood Drive to allow a pool to be installed closer than 10 feet from the structure, and this was approved. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. School Board Liaison, Councilman Mosley.
Thank you. Last Tuesday, September 17th, the school board met to conduct regular business. I'm pleased to report that the school has received a state report rating of 4 out of 5 stars. The steady growth is very important, and I'm grateful for the school system that we have. Our affiliate, Polaris Career Center, received a rating of 5 out of 5 stars. I would also like to remind all the parents in the district to download Parent Square. There's an app. I know you can log in online if you haven't done so already. It connects you so much with your kids, teachers, and principals. I use it very often, and I love it. I feel that I know what happens every day at school. It's a little bit different. I feel I didn't graduate that long ago, and they didn't have this when I was in school. And for being a first year of me sending my own child to school, I appreciate it, the communication very much. Also, last Monday on the 16th, Council President Pucci and I met with Superintendent Claris to go over the work that is going to be done because of the bond issue that passed a few months ago. I believe the mayor met with him the week prior as well. This will have a major impact on our students and community members. There are going to be many projects happening to improve the quality of learning for our students, as well as giving them a place to be proud to attend. Some things that will be addressed are enhanced security, new windows, updating the facility to be ADA compliant, and to refresh our sports complexes. I encourage everyone in the public to attend the public information session on October 30th, and there has not been a set time, but when there is one, I will pass it along. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. I would like to congratulate the 14U team and the 10U baseball team for their efforts. Also, congratulations to their coaches and parents. We're very proud of you. Congratulations also to the school system on the 4-star rating. They have been really working very diligently to bring the ratings up, and whatever they're doing, it's working. I too would like to thank Dr. Claris. As Councilman Mosley mentioned, we did meet with him. There are no surprises as far as what they're going to be working on. It was basically what was presented to the public when the bond issue was on the ballot. However, there's a few of the areas that whether they're able to do them or not will depend on how the actual final cost comes in for each item. But it's very exciting improvements to our school, and I think most people are aware that the high school really is in dire need of updates. I'd also like to thank our police department for their efforts in investigating the theft and vandalism relating to the Pride items. And even though there has been some progress, this is still also an active investigation. And I also want to make sure everyone is aware that because of Columbus Day, our next council meeting will be on Tuesday, October 15th. We have a rule in council, if our date falls on a Monday that's a holiday, we meet the next day. And now we'll move on to the mayor's report. Mayor Van Kirk. I apologize. I just gave my report. I'm sorry. Mr. Borowski, we'll start with you.
No problem. Thank you for all those that are attending the meeting tonight. Thank you for those that are going to watch this at home. This past weekend was the city's Fall Fest, a fantastic work done by all of those that volunteered, the vendors, and those that worked it. It was very well attended and showcased the great efforts of the city to host all the wonderful events that we have going on in the city for our residents. Congratulations as well to the baseball teams that are recognized tonight. Keep up the efforts and the great work. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilman Tansky.
Thank you. Good evening. Brooklyn's Fall Festival at Veterans Memorial Park this past weekend was a huge success. It was nice to see a lot of the residents and their families enjoying the live music, food, hay rides, and games for the kids. The Car show was great. The night ended with fireworks and at dusk. I hope everyone who came out enjoyed themselves as we kick off the fall season. I would like to congratulate Brooklyn's 10U baseball team as they are the 2024 SWS Recreation Travel League champs. They went undefeated in the regular season. The 14U baseball team also won the league championship for SWS Youth Recreation Travel League. Congratulations to all these amazing youth athletes and their accomplishments. Thanks to the coaches and players for all their hard work and to the family and friends who support them all year. We are so proud of all of you. Concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilman Grodick.
Thank you. Just very briefly, I would like to commend Director Abruzzi. Looking over the agenda tonight, we will be voting on 2024-17, which is applying for a grant that will bring some ADA access to Brock Park. We certainly want everyone in our community to feel included, and I think that is like the perfect place to start looking at how we can make sure that all the students or all the children in our community and nearby, not only that they are able to play, but also that the adults that are bringing them there. We have a lot of grandparents with lower mobility, and I think it's just great. It'll be a great example, and I can't wait to see it. That ends my report.
Thank you. Councilman Coyle.
Thank you. Good evening again. Congratulations to our 14U and 10U rec baseball teams on another fantastic season. It's great to see success in our youth baseball programs here in Brooklyn. As mentioned earlier, we've had several homes in Brooklyn that were vandalized and or had pride flags taken from their properties over the summer. Shortly after the last council meeting, it was announced that the police had made a break in the case and that they were able to file charges against 2 juveniles. Many residents in the community were anxious about this situation, and I know it isn't always easy when details of an ongoing investigation cannot be shared publicly. I want to thank the residents involved for reporting these incidents and for their ongoing patience. I also want to thank Chief Milkey and the police department for actively investigating these crimes and for catching the perpetrators. This leads into my next topic, as I'd like to speak briefly on Ordinance 2024-16, enacting Chapter 157, Inclusion and Belonging Commission of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Brooklyn. While this isn't exactly the piece of legislation that council had worked on through most of the first half of the year, I believe it is a closer compromise. I'd like to thank the mayor for pledging his support for some of these changes that Councilwoman Grodick introduced at the last meeting. While I know there is currently some debate on the title, I hope that all of my fellow council members understand that this commission should not only be about connecting with our residents, but rather ensuring that everyone feels safe, included, and that they belong here in Brooklyn. In my opinion, connecting is too vague and doesn't provide enough direction for the future commission members. Lastly, Tuesday, November 5th is Election Day, and it's fast approaching. The deadline to register to vote is Monday, October 7th. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Selchertz.
Thank you. Good evening. As everybody else has mentioned, congratulations to our baseball teams that were honored at the beginning of this meeting. Also, congratulations to 2024 Brooklyn City Schools Hall of Fame inductees. They are Earl Bloom, who received the Ron Zutti School Community Engagement Award, John S. Phillips, major contributions to Brooklyn City School District, James Verba, major contributions to the Brooklyn City School District, Robert Bob Kelber, career accomplishments, class of 1966, Ken Friedel, athletic accomplishments, class of 1983, Nicholas Latimer, athletic accomplishments, class of 2004. Dominic Grassi, athletic accomplishments, class of 2004. Also inducted were the 1983 wrestling team. That team was coached by National Wrestling Hall of Fame member Joe Drago, along with Les Foote and Art Pritchlick. The team went undefeated in the Inland Conference dual meets. They also earned a 4th place finish at the Ohio State Tournament. And also inducted that evening were the 2002-2003 girls basketball team. They were coached by Brooklyn Hall of Fame member James Verba. The team posted a 22-3 record overall. They were undefeated MAC 8 champions with a 14-0 record. Verba's team earned sectional and divisional championships. Most impressively, this is the only basketball team in Brooklyn high school history to advance to the regionals. Friends of the Brooklyn Library, along with the Lowell Garden Club and Keep Brooklyn Beautiful, on October 1st, will have their final gardening speaker for the year. The subject will be putting your garden to bed. As fall winds down and winter approaches, gardeners need to address some of the basic maintenance that will make their work in the spring much easier. This presentation explains the basic task for preparing for winter. Topics covered include lawns, roses, evergreens, and shrubs, flower beds, vegetable gardens, and tools. Christine Harris from the Master Gardeners of Cuyahoga County is back at the Brooklyn branch for the timely, informative programming of putting your garden to bed. On Saturday, October 5th, 2024, there will be a cleanup of the I-40 ramps at Tiedemann Ridge and State. This will be done in cooperation with Ohio Department of Transportation. Keep Ohio beautiful, keep Brooklyn beautiful, and the city of Brooklyn. Sign-up information is available through the city website. Those interested can pre-register at http://form.jotform.com. There's a whole bunch of numbers. You can actually look at it on the city website, and you can register for it. The cleanup will start at 8:45. We'll meet at Buffalo Wild Wings, and it will split up into 3 groups, and we'll cover the interchanges at Tiedemann, Ridge, and State. And if we have enough people, we'll try to go cover the main roads too on Tiedemann, Ridge, and State as well. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilman Mosley.
Thank you. Good evening. I will sound a little bit like a broken record here, but I do want to congratulate the baseball teams that were up here earlier. And I would also like to share my thanks for the police department and Chief Milkey. Last week, he did announce that 2 arrests were made, and I know it's still an open investigation, and I'm hopeful that the others are caught. I know it's hard to be patient, especially when you're a victim, but the detectives' work takes a long time, and I have all the confidence in the world that our department will catch those that are involved. Something else that I would like to bring to attention is the constant parking problem at Marquardt Park. I've had many conversations with residents of that area, our police chief, mayor, Director Abruzzi. Too often, people that live on Heatherbrook High, Springwood are burdened with having to struggle to get in and out of their driveways. I know it's very frustrating. I have family that lives on that street. I've been noticing an uptick more recently, and I know that there's conversations going on behind closed doors that we're working on it. I don't feel that it should be the responsibility of the residents in that area to call every time somebody's parked illegally. So I'm asking anybody that is willing to listen to please use the walking trails to get to the park. This park was designed and has been stated over and over again that it is a walk-to neighborhood park. I don't think the solution should be to call the police officers, although that's what we have to do now. I'm just asking everybody in this room to come together with a solution, and let's figure this out. On a more positive note, I would like to congratulate everyone involved with the Fall Fest this past weekend, especially Mr. Abruzzi and our rec department. It was wonderful to see so many people enjoying the events on Saturday. I was honestly very surprised to see so many people because it was 85 degrees for a Fall Fest. Thank you to Bob Hennings for the wonderful fireworks show, and I will be more than happy to donate for the next show. And I do want to thank the participants for the Pie in the Face competition. While I was disappointed I didn't win as much as I would have liked, I did have the privilege of smashing a plate full of whipped cream into the mayor's face. And as a little show of my appreciation, I got him a little gift to hang in his office next to his master's degree. It is a time lapse of him getting hit in the face with whipped cream. Thank you, Mayor, and let's do it again next year. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Just to piggyback on the situation with the parking, Chief, at Marquardt, I know that one of the issues, in addition to residents' drives being blocked because people are parking too close to them, is the issue of people parking where they're not supposed to park down at the end. And, you know, we specifically, when that park was designed, left that how it was because that's what we need to get an emergency vehicle in and out of there. So I think you might have had a conversation with Mr. Mosley, but I don't understand why, if that's designated for emergency vehicles, like maybe we just need to change our signage that we can't tow people from there. I understand, some differences with maybe if we don't have like emergency vehicles only. So I don't know if that's something you.
Cite them, we can't tow them.
Pardon me?
We can cite them, we can't tow them.
You can't tow someone who parks for an emergency vehicle? Really?
Yep, one of the 10 reasons in the ORC.
Okay,
They have multiple parking tickets, we can.
okay, all right. Well, if there's any way we can try and pay a little bit closer attention to that area. I know that it's mostly in the evenings right now. I'm sure we're going to get into the Saturday issues also. And I do know also, I'm hearing that like there are people coming for like, I don't know if you call them pickup soccer games or what, but Mr. Abruzzi, did you want to add anything?
I mean, we've come to find out, we don't have contacts or anything, but we know there's multiple co-ed leagues that use that field as their home site. We're trying to track those people down and stuff like that, but that's one of the things we're working on. We're considering making a permit-only park and things like that from our end. We're doing what we can to maybe limit that. Those are things we're working on right now, in addition to Chief Milky working on the parking aspect of it. So there's multiple factors at play there. That's a lot of the reason for that traffic, so we're working on that from our end.
Okay, and just a little bit more feedback that I heard from a resident on one of the streets is they're also like bringing food, eating the food, like while they're in their cars or outside of their cars, and then leaving the litter all over also. So if we could kind of be on the lookout for that too. It's kind of sad that people would, behave that way. And thank you to you, the rec department, and all of our city departments, because it's definitely a group effort for all their efforts with Fall Fest. And with that, I'll turn it over to the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. And just to piggyback on what Mr. Abruzzi said, I've talked with him as well as our law director. I fully intend on introducing legislation to limit that park to permit only, and we're going to limit it to Brooklyn organizations only. To be permitted there. What we're finding is, Mr. Abruzzi mentioned, it's a lot of adult leagues that are coming at night and doing exactly what you're talking about. It is unfortunate, but that is the case, and so we are working on that. I know that this past weekend, there were a lot of citations that were written for parking up there. We did paint in bright yellow, huge stripes across the area, no parking. That has gotten better, I've noticed, because I'm there quite often, but it's an ongoing issue, and we do intend to do the best that we can to resolve it. As far as the Fall Festival goes, it was a huge success. I want to thank the Brooklyn City Schools, as well as the Chamber of Commerce, and also Mr. Abruzzi and his team. It was hot. It felt more like a summer festival, but it was a great turnout, a lot of smiling faces. The Pie in the Face contest was kind of cool. I didn't exactly know what it was for until I got there, and that was for the Brooklyn Cares program. It's a great program that they have at the school to help less fortunate families. It was a fundraiser for them, and so they sold raffle tickets, and there was one for myself that somehow Mr. Mosley won. And then Mr. Boland, one of the principals up there, Dr. Calaris, Mr. Selhertz got it as well. And I think, let's see, who else? There's a board member, Mr. Rocky Neal got it as well. So it was a lot of fun, and I'm sure it's all over. If you have a child that's in the school, I'm sure it's on their social media somewhere. So it was a good time. Thank Mr. Parker for a great job with the car show. He asked me to do a mayor's choice, and there were 80 cars there. And I don't know very much about cars, so I had my son help me, who's 10 years old, and pick one. It was ended up being a car that was actually made the year I was born, so it worked out kind of nice. It was a 1979 Trans Am, so it was a lot of fun, and it's a great turnout. It's really one of the things that makes Brooklyn great, is having events like this and just seeing the camaraderie everyone has, and so it was a lot of fun. I also want to thank Dr. Claris, as Councilwoman Pucci mentioned, I believe one other person, the meeting with the school in regards to the upgrades you're going to be doing at the school. They've already upgraded all the bathrooms in the high school. They look great. And they did that over this summer. And they're going to continue with these renovations once they get budget numbers done. And there's really not going to be any part of the school or the sports facilities that are not touched. And we're going to be partnering with the schools. They're going to be putting a walking path on the Hurricane Alley property, and we're going to connect that path to our paths in Veterans Memorial Park. And so we'll have a huge walking path that'll be able to use all that acreage. And so just another way that the city and the schools are partnering together. I'm super excited to see all those transitions that are made, and those adjustments and improvements are made. And as someone mentioned, the high school is in desperate need of it, so it'll be good for the schools. Just some updates on some items that are going on in the city. We have about a week and a half left for potential officers to complete the national test to be considered for the 3 open police officer positions that we have. At last check that we had more than 30 that have applied for that, so that's a good number. And once that closes, we'll begin the whittling down process to be able to hire additional officers. Veterans Memorial Park, the upgrade plan will go out to bid in the next week or two. And the bid openings will take place in mid-October, and that's going to be a $3 million plus renovation to Veterans Memorial Park. And so I was commenting to my wife when we were there on Saturday that this time next year the park will look completely different. It'll be completely upgraded. So very excited to share the plans with that. It's going to be outstanding there at the park as we get started on that. Hopefully either the end of this year or beginning of next year. The natatorium is another item that we are looking to upgrade. The phased upgrade plan is completed. We're fine-tuning some budget numbers with the architect, and then we'll be having those discussions with council in the upgraded budget work sessions. That facility is pushing 35 years old, and most of it is original, and so we'll be doing some serious upgrades, primarily for the first phase inside of the natatorium side. The Memphis Road Diet project is nearly completed. The landscaping portion will take place later this month or going to next. There is some additional signage that was requested at the last meeting that's on order and should be in place soon. The library is moving forward on schedule. I had a chance to tour the library last Friday, and it is a really cool building. It's going to be an outstanding addition to our city. I look forward to it being completed next month, and then we'll have a grand opening in November. The last road project that we have in the city right now is the Southwood. The water line replacement is complete. Right now, there are several tests the Division of Water has to perform before we can reconnect residential lines. Once those tests are completed, those lines will be reconnected, and then the construction process of redoing the road, curbing, sidewalks, et cetera, will get underway. And that project will last pretty much for the rest of this year. We completed a study on all the city roads. Our engineer completed that, and we will likely be redoing Idlewood, Harmony, and Springcrest next year. And so we'll consider that as we go into our budget work sessions here in the coming weeks. I want to thank our fire chief, Chief Paul, as well as Lieutenant Calmer. I had the opportunity to do a ride-along again with our fire department last week. They made a great breakfast there as well. It was a lot of fun, and a great group of guys that we have down there. And of course, I don't need to tell the residents of Brooklyn how great our fire department is, but it was a really enjoyable time just to get to know them a little more on a personal level, to see them work. The work that they do. We didn't get any calls when I was there. I was there for about 4 hours. We didn't get any actual calls, but we did quite a few inspections, and I've never got to see that side of it. And it was neat to see how they make sure that the businesses, most of the stuff that you don't see when you go into a business, behind the scenes, making sure things are safe, and they do an outstanding job. And so thanks Chief Paul for the opportunity, as well as to Lieutenant Calmer for inviting me along. In regards to the grants that were mentioned tonight, I was going to mention the exact same thing that Mrs. Grodick mentioned, to be able to do some ADA upgrades at Brock Memorial Park. But not only that, we'll also be doing some ADA upgrades at Veterans Memorial Park as well. And so more of the items as we get them in will be ADA compliant, so that they'll be able to be used by more individuals who require those types of, that type of equipment. And then lastly, there was a story, I think it was on Fox 8 about a deer survey that the city is doing. We have had a couple of deer attacks in the city this year, which blows my mind. I never heard of such a thing, but here it's happened twice in our city. And the response to that survey has been very good. The survey will run through the end of October. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to gauge kind of where the deer are, how often you're seeing them in your yard, and what your opinion is on how we should handle the deer population. And there are several items you can tick off inside that survey. I think it's 8 questions. It'll take you less than a minute and a half to do it. We're partnering with the Department of Agriculture, as well as the Ohio Division of Wildlife. They'll actually be coming into our city once the leaves fall off the trees and be doing a deer survey where they actually physically count how many deer we have in our city, where the hot spots are in our city. And so this is an ongoing issue that we've had for quite some time. When we have people being attacked by them, that's obviously not good. And so we want to get the residents' feedback of kind of where they are and what their ideas are for handling the deer population. And I think that's all I have. Mrs. Pucci?
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to directors' reports. And this evening, we have a report from Finance Director Raguse.
Thank you very much. Just one item for me tonight, just a review of the general fund financial report for August of 2024. On the top half of the income statement for the revenues, overall revenues are 74% of the estimated amount, 2% more than prior year due to an increase in income tax and charges for services. On the bottom half of the income statement for the commitments, overall commitments are 65% of the budget amount, 13% more than last year, due to wage increases throughout the city, hiring of additional budget positions in various departments throughout the city, part-time pool salaries, and also an additional payroll in August that will reconcile itself in September. On the income tax front, income tax, we received our distributions from RITA for September. We received total distribution of $1.213 million, which is $150,000 more than September of last year. Of this $150,000, withholding accounts for a gain of $129,000. So very positive news on the income tax front for September. That concludes my report. Are there any questions from City Council?
Anyone? No, thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Butler, would you like to address it now or wait till we have it on our, when we get to it on the agenda relating the rental?
I'm happy to address it now or later.
That's fine. You can do it now if you like.
So it's my understanding that the question came up. I regret not having been here for Committee of the Whole. But my understanding is that the question came up about the enforceability of restrictive covenants with respect to single-family residential use and non-rental covenants as well. Typically, restrictive covenants in any deeds are enforceable by either neighbors who benefit from those restrictive covenants or by a homeowners association that's in place to also offer protections to residential owners. The city also permits itself to enforce the restrictive covenants that are found in the deed. So really, you've got three lines of attack in the event that there's some. I think this probably answers our residents' question from earlier. But you've got three lines of attack in terms of who can enforce restrictive covenants going forward. I certainly have never heard of any concerns over enforcing restrictive covenants that would forbid rentals. So in the way that I wrote these restrictive covenants is to permit only very limited types of quote-unquote rentals. One would be if the property is owned by a trustee and one of the beneficiaries of that trust is living in the property. That would account for trustee ownership. The second one would be if an adult child owned a property and that was to benefit someone who was older, a parent, and living in that property. Oftentimes, adult children own their parents' residences in order to assist with things such as Medicaid qualification down the line. So those would be some examples of non-owner occupants that would be permitted going forward, but that's really the only carve-out. That's the only exception. Otherwise, they have to be owner-occupied entirely, and I haven't heard of any restrictions on enforcing those kinds of owner occupancy only restrictive covenants.
Thank you very much for that explanation. Okay, we'll move on to legislation. First, under old business is ordinance 2024-16, enacting Chapter 157, Inclusion and Belonging Commission of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Brooklyn. There was a recommendation from the Committee of the Whole to change the title to strike the word inclusion and insert the word connecting. Any comments or questions on that? Okay, first we need a motion to amend.
So moved.
Second.
To amend, Aaron Borowski,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky,
Yes.
Sue Grodick,
No.
Kathy Pucci,
No.
Stephen Coyle,
No.
Andy Selhertz,
Yes.
Matt Mosley,
Yes.
Okay, it is amended, and it's back on second reading. Ordinance 2024-17, amending the Planning and Zoning Code of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Brooklyn to regulate certain medical marijuana and adult-use cannabis facilities in the City of Brooklyn. And we're going to defer this because there's going to be some further changes. So we need a motion to defer, please.
Motion to defer.
Second.
To defer, Aaron Borowski,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-13, which is on second reading, requesting the county fiscal officer to advance taxes from the proceeds of the 2024 tax levies pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, Section 321.34. Resolution 2024-14, which is on second reading with a request to adopt under suspension, accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county fiscal officer. Any comments or questions?
Introduced by all to suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
To adopt, Aaron Borowski,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-16, which is on second reading, authorizing the mayor to enter into a real property purchase agreement with Brooklyn Rabbit Run LLC for the sale and purchase of 2 acres of vacant land located at 8707 Memphis Avenue, part of permanent parcel number 432-21-074. And the real property consisting of approximately 1.1 acres of vacant land located on Memphis Avenue, east of North Amber Road, permanent parcel numbers 431-22-001, -002, -003, -004, -006, -007, -008, and -009, and declaring it an emergency. And this is on second reading. I do just want to bring something to the attention of council. I discussed this with the mayor and also Mr. Butler, that in, under the therefore 1C, if you go down kind of towards the end, where it refers to the principal on the note shall bear an interest rate of 3% per annum, and then it says, except that interest may be deferred or waived according to the terms of the note. This really didn't sit well with me, and I had some questions about it. However, Mr. Butler said that there is no waiver provision in the draft note. So I've requested, Mr. Butler advised that he is going to be making some tweaks to this, and he is going to remove that, so that that's not a question. I just wanted everyone to be aware of that.
Madam Chair, may I speak to that very
Yes.
briefly? The purchase agreement itself also has to be amended in order to account for the deed restrictions that we wrote into the draft deed. The purchase agreement does contain some deed restrictions, but they don't match the single-family, owner-occupied restrictive covenants that are found in the draft deed itself. So we are going to have to prepare and produce to our partners a revised purchase agreement. We're also probably going to hear from them with respect to some of the drafts that we've created most recently. And so I do anticipate that while the legislation won't change and while the substance of the purchase agreement will not change, by and large, because we've already come to an appreciation, understanding on the purchase agreement, you'll have some revised exhibits, that's for sure, and some slight tweaks to that purchase agreement between now and then.
Thank you very much.
May I be recognized just
Yes.
for a moment? Since we're talking about this legislation so much tonight, could we just have a reminder of what declaring an emergency in legislation means?
So declaring an emergency means that we do not have to wait for the period of time of 30 days after it's adopted. It would go into effect immediately upon passage. Is there anything you'd like to add, Mr. Butler?
That's exactly what I would have said.
Okay, because we have gone 3 readings with this. I mean, we've been talking about this for quite a long time, but we've gone 3 readings, so this is nothing that we're trying to pass on first or second reading. So that's a good point to explain to the residents, that means we don't have to have that waiting period after we adopt it. Okay, under new business, Resolution 2024-17, on first reading with a request to suspend the rules, approving the application of the City of Brooklyn to apply for Community Development Block Grant funds for the ADA upgrades to the James P. Brock Memorial Playground Project. And this was for $150,000. Any comments or questions?
Introduced by all to suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
To adopt, Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-18, up for first reading with a request to suspend the rules, approving the application of the City of Brooklyn to the Cuyahoga County Supplemental Grant Program for an exterior home repair grant program, and this will be for $50,000. Any comments or questions?
Introduced by all to suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
To adopt, Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Stephen Coyle.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Matt Mosley.
Yes.
Okay, at this time, we will have our second public session. If anyone in the audience has anything to say for the good and welfare of the City of Brooklyn, please step forward, state your name and address, and you will be recognized. Please remember to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less.
Madam Chair, just a point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, could I ask the council just clarify, the motion made on the floor in Committee of the Whole and then confirmed by council's vote this evening with respect to the Inclusion and Belonging Commission is to change instances of the word inclusion throughout the legislation to connecting,
I think the motion was to change the title.
or just change the title of the commission?
I don't know if you have it written down, Mary Jo. Right.
The word in the title. So would the result be that the commission would be called the Connecting and Belonging Commission?
So
That's the substance of the motion?
I believe the subject of the motion was to change the title. Was that your motion, Mr. Borowski?
Yes, it was.
Does
Okay.
that help you?
Yes, I just want to be
Okay.
sure because I'll prepare the draft and I want to get it right.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Sorry to interrupt.
No worries. Okay.
Hi, I'm Melanie Gabal at 4760 Brook High Drive. You guys have discussed the parking that is happening on that street. We have other residents, one had to leave about what's going on over there. It's been going on for 8 to 10 years now, and it seems to be getting worse rather than better. I have pictures that I would like to give you to see how people are parking in garbage that's being left down at the park.
As well in our
Yards.
yard.
Okay, Mary Jo. We're not happy with the fact that there's a sign out on Bidoff only pointing to our street when there's access to all 3 streets.
On both sides of it all.
Yeah, it's on both sides, only pointing to Brook High, which means that everybody comes down our street first and uses access to the park at that location. It doesn't hit Springwood and Heather as bad as it hits us. This is our neighbor. Last week, her husband came home 3 different times. He could not get in his driveway.
And that was after work, so it was like at that 5:30, 5 o'clock time, and he had to sit
So
there.
just a
and
moment.
wait
We're going to have
Yeah.
you speak after Mrs. Gabella,
Okay.
because we need to get your name and address for the
Okay.
record.
So we're all here together to complain, and again, another neighbor had to leave because she had to pick up her son. Something needs to be done. And I know that a couple of years ago, there was an emergency down there for one of the residents, and the ambulance had to back all the way down Brook High to get out of there, wasting minutes to get to a hospital for any resident who's on the street. I've had UPS drivers, Amazon trucks, FedEx trucks turning around in my driveway because they cannot turn around at the turnaround. So I understand that you guys are looking into it. I've talked to Andy about it. We've had people parking on both sides of the street where we can't even back out of our driveways as well as pull into our driveways. And it's getting to the point where I think it's going to escalate into somebody getting in trouble because people and the residents are getting quite tired of it. And there is some verbal stuff going on with people, and we don't think they're being respectful of our properties at all. So something needs to be done, and that's why we're here. I would like to hand these pictures to somebody so that you can see what we're dealing.
Thank you.
Some of them were yesterday, last night.
Okay, thank you.
So we're here to try to get a resolution on what's going on there.
I understand.
And I don't understand how people can see the yellow lines. There's a picture with the yellow lines and cars parked 6 deep in that area. They don't care. And they are not Brooklyn residents. They are rec leagues that come into our city, and something with the rec department needs to be done to these teams that come in here.
Okay.
Sorry, my name's Kristen Gabala. I live at 4760 Brookeye Drive. There's also a picture in that envelope of cars curbed around, limiting access to wheelchair.
The wheelchair
They're right parked right
sidewalks.
in front of it. There's no other way to get onto the street to come to Marquardt Park if they were handicapped.
Okay, thank you very much. And did you want to be recognized?
Yes, I live at 4764 Brookeye, and my name is Candace Asbury. And yeah, it has been bad, but this year it's insane. Like she said, my husband 3 days last week had to sit in the road and wait for someone to come and move their car so he could pull in our drive. And not to be petty, right? But if there's an emergency for even us in our own homes, we can't get out. I've had people stop, not just on the ends like the picture show, but actually stop in front of my driveway and then yell at me when I ask them to move. And they're like, "Do you live here?" And I'm like, "Yes, I live here." And I had an electrician out last week, and there's a picture in there with the black truck. The electrician had to ask the guy to move because he was just sitting in his car blocking my drive. And then as soon as the electrician pulled in my drive, he just pulled back there and blocked my drive. So.
Okay. Are people calling the police when this happens?
I've seen the
Have
police
been, but
several
we've
times,
also
yeah.
been condemned by people, and I know Facebook, nobody wants to hear about that, but people are telling us that we're wasting time calling the police and interrupting them when they should be doing other things. And I get that.
And we
My
shouldn't be
fa-
expecting pity.
Right. My father was a police officer in the city. I know how it goes, but it's escalating. It is not getting better. And I don't want to see anybody get hurt or get into a fight. We have not said much to anybody, but it's getting out of control to the point where we're getting angry and because nothing's being done.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
I'm sorry. You said it's been bad this year in particular. Do you attribute it to the signs that were put up there?
We
point
think
down-
that didn't help.
Right.
But I
it
mean,
didn't help.
what I'm saying is, has it been worse this year than it has been in the past?
Yes.
I know it's been an ongoing issue for years, but it's been worse this year. Okay.
I've also noticed this year, though, there's sometimes 4 and 5 games going on at the same time, and I haven't noticed that in the past as much. I
There's
haven't
no
noticed
parking for
that
that
many
many
games. Yeah.
We wouldn't even be able to park in our on the street.
We can't even park in front
Like
of
if
our own
I
houses.
had company over, I wouldn't even be able to have them park in the street. And where am I supposed to tell them to park?
It's a real problem.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank
And we're
you.
working on it.
Thank you.
Hey, Ron, when they said they're talking about with the double parking about 2 years ago, all the no parking signs that were supposed to be on the poles were gone. So at least we kind of took care of that problem, but it's still just, it keeps floating around.
Somebody put signs on our that say not to park, and those are just ignored. I don't know who put the signs there, but I know the sign right in front of my house that somebody put there. Last houses to the right then.
Okay.
I've had people cut it down.
Okay, thank you.
Victor Ardito, 4739 Outlook Avenue. I'm right there backing them up with their complaint. I've mentioned it before. You built a big park to bring mass amount of people there, and you refuse, and they says nobody wants a parking lot anywhere. So why build a park you want to bring a lot of people to and not have them park? Yeah, oh, there's a walking trail. This is a modern day. This is America. We don't like to walk far. Speaking about walking in the trail, I went to Brooklyn, the trail in the park. I got to the end, I was tired because I did a good mile or better. And I'm there, I'm going to cut over to the bridge. I told you before, I had to walk down the dirt hill because I wasn't about to walk all the way back because I couldn't, I was tired. So you're talking about doing that stuff again. Are you going to make a ramp to go down to that bridge? I mentioned it before, and the rusty bridge that has the rusty look to it. I know I'm not the only person that gets tired on a walk, and gee, I went down the muddy hill. Thankfully, it wasn't muddy. Memphis, hey, that's really working out good. I'm being sarcastic. I was behind a car in our single lane, which I know it has to be, but they were doing in the low 20s, so that was entertaining. Again, we've talked, like Kevin brought it up. You took out all those all those nice pavers there because the cement was in bad shape. Okay. And you planted grass. Have you figured out who's going to take care of the grass? And again, I've asked and nobody gave me an answer. I asked on the side. How much are we paying these people to do all the landscaping? Can we hire a couple more people in the service garage to do landscaping? And when there's none to do, they do other stuff, because I know they're short on people compared to what they used to be. Parking. Oh, you can't go grass, yeah. Oh, yes, yeah, my main thing again. The street lights, nobody answered me last time. You have so many streets left to do. You came out with new arms that work beautiful. You put it down like 2 houses down from me with a new bulb. Lights up great, pretty much like they used to light, only it's brighter. Are we gonna finish off the rest of the streets that have to be done with those nicer arms and the brighter bulb? Or are we set into the dark side? And again, people move to the city for safety and street lights. You replaced them and we're darker. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's try this again. My name is Bob Hennings. I live at 4643 Winter Lane, Brooklyn, Ohio. And as I said before, it's that time of the year where post-prom is always looking for donations to take care of the senior night fireworks. It's a tradition that started probably about 8 or 9 years ago, where the seniors come down onto the field during the fireworks display. They chill out down there while the display is going on. It's become a fan favorite, and we like to keep it going, and donations are always appreciated. So I'll be sitting over there if anybody wants to stop by and say hi. Thank you very much. And I hope everybody liked the fireworks for Fall Festival. And Chief, thank you for the patience with getting those couple of changes made.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to say for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn?
My name is Adalbert Patrick Reagan. I live at 4646 Memphis Village South. And first of all, I would commend our first responders. There was one unknown first responders. On July 2nd, my wife fell in the driveway, broke her tibia, both wrists, and cracked her head, laying her in the cement. And some kid on his bike called 911. He was unknown first responder. And his name is Patrick Ellery. And I would like to go on record and commend him for his duty in helping us. And to this day, my wife is still in a hospital, recovering from her injuries. But thank goodness these guys were there. They didn't think it was a prank. They came right away. They took care of her. And I want you to thank you for everything. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else have anything to say for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn? Okay, Mr. Cerny and Mr. Bruce, we had a couple questions in the beginning of the meeting. One, I believe, was confirming the number of units on each site, if you don't mind coming up to the podium so we can get that clarification.
The Memphis South site has 20 units, and the Memphis Amber site has 24.
Okay. And then the other question was relating to GD3 Ventures.
That's my partner's LLC.
Right,
And
regarding the environmentally conscious development
Right.
and the trees.
trees.
Yep,
Well, if you look at the site on an aerial, I'm just going to go over here and get.
sure.
Dave, I'll pull it up. Go ahead. I'll pull it up for you. Give me 1 second. You can keep talking while you're doing that.
As you look at the site, Memphis South, we call it, in really most of the trees on the site are in the back. So most of the trees will be retained. If you look at it, most of it's a green open field. There is about 200 feet. That's Memphis South. Yes, the western side of it has some trees. About 200 feet has trees. It's a very small amount. First 35 feet. Fronting on Memphis Road. So there will be some trees taken down. However, I will say, when you guys updated your code in the last year, you've made significant improvements or requirements of a developer to replace trees and put trees in. So we will be in compliance of the code. So I think, there is going to be a loss of some trees, but I think net, I haven't looked at the exact net, but I'm going to guess that it's probably going to be equal or greater trees at the end of the day, and all the ones in the back will likely be preserved because there is no intention to develop the back.
Can we recognize very
Yes,
quickly
Mayor.
to piggyback on that? And as also, Dave didn't mention this when he's talking now, but the developer is only purchasing the front 2 acres.
Right.
The back 3+ acres will remain with the city, and our plan is to make that into a meadow / trees, so all that kind of stuff will be planted back there. So even if they don't get to a net neutrality when it comes to number of trees, with the city of Brooklyn planting back there, we will.
We work with the Cuyahoga County Soil and Water Group. They have pretty stringent requirements when we're doing things, and we just did that with them in another city. So we try to do the right things and stay in compliance with code. We're not asking for a variance or anything like that.
Okay. And our law director, Mr. Butler, already answered the question relating to the deed restrictions prohibiting rentals. And I believe those were all the questions. Okay, thank you. And thank you for staying to answer the questions. We appreciate it. Okay, anyone else on council or the mayor have anything further?
I have some.
Mr. Tansky?
I just want to bring up the Delbert Reagan that came up here about his wife that fell in the front yard. He's contacted me numerous times. I got a hold of the police chief. Police chief got a hold of the fire chief. This individual, Patrick, that lives on Memphis Villa, was 16 years old. He's seen somebody laying in the front yard like that, helpless. If it wasn't for that, wasn't for Patrick, hit 911, the person probably wouldn't be here right now, according to Delbert when he was talking to me. That's how bad shape she was in. I would like to see a proclamation for this 16-year-old that did what he did, because he didn't have to do it, he could have kept walking. But he felt in his heart that he needed to help that person. Stranger. So I believe he should be recognized. And Delbert really broke down on the phone with me, and I felt really, really bad for him and his wife. But he has been trying to find out who this person was, and finally he contacted me. So if we